Hello everybody and welcome to the AppleBruit podcast, the only podcast dedicated to talking about Apple rumors. Alright, let's get it started with 9to5Mac looking into the iOS 6 beta simulator. And what they did was they placed the simulator into 640 by 1136 pixels. And what they found was very interesting. They found that the row of icons goes from 4 to 5, but only at this specific resolution. If they change this resolution to anything else, the icons turn back into 4 rows and it gets stretched out. So that leads them to believe that Apple must be working on this. And I agree. Apple must be working on this resolution because of that result. But it could just be for prototyping purposes, right? But, you know, I do believe that the iPhone 5 will have this resolution. And sticking with the iOS 6 simulator, they also checked out, 9to5Mac, checked out what it would be like if you had a landscape keyboard. So they turned the iPhone from portrait to landscape, and they checked out what the keyboard looked like. And again, very interesting, because the keyboard actually is a little bit larger. The keys are a little bit larger and further apart on this resolution versus any other resolution. But it's not completely stretched out from one side to the other. There's a little bit of space on the left and the right-hand side of the keyboard. And speaking of stretch, 9to5Mac again, man, it's like they were on fire in this one. I think this was today. They posted all this stuff and they were like, bam, bam, bam. So they have another one from iOS Simulator from the source. Their source was, oh shoot, I forgot what his name was. Sonny something. Anyway, what he tried to do was he tried to see what the Apple apps would look like on this stretched simulation, and he actually found that it works. The apps do stretch on specific applications. I'm looking here at the contacts and Game Center. They do stretch at that resolution, stretch perfectly, as in, you know, it doesn't look like the image will stretch. It just looks like there's more stuff that you can look at. But on applications like the calculator or the voice recorder, it doesn't stretch. So keep that in mind. Maybe Apple is working on a way to stretch this stuff. But here's my thought. When you're a developer, you want to design for as many, well, not as many resolutions, but you want to design your apps so that they actually, you know, would stretch if that's possible. And what I mean by that is, whenever you get a phone call on your iPhone, there's that green bar at the top. And what happens to the app that you're looking at, or most apps out there? They shrink a little bit. So it's already programmed in there. The program is already put in there. Whenever there's, you know, an extra, I don't know, 10 pixels at the top, shrink me a little bit. But you can also program it so that whenever there's an extra 148 pixels, I think 148, 146, but if whenever there's extra pixels vertically, stretch me, because there really is no point of not stretching it unless you have a game. So if you had Angry Birds or something like that, it wouldn't make sense to stretch because it's just tougher to stretch that versus a list of contacts. That's a lot easier to program and stretch. Now on to the tech block, and they're talking about the iPhone 5's external structure is for a purpose, as in the iPhone 5 right now, you know, that aluminum backing and the aluminum band around it, that is actually for a purpose. And this was a really good read. And what the person talks about is that they split the antenna from the top to the bottom. The iPhone 4 right now sucks because of the whole antenna gate. So what they did to avoid that was they split the phone antennas so that half of it, or not half of it, but one part of it is at the top, one part of it is at the bottom, so that you don't, you know, there's less chances of you completely covering them. And if you look at the back of the iPhone 5 or the rumored images of the iPhone 5, there's that plastic part at the top and the bottom at the back. Well, that's for, you know, Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, so that all those signals can come out. And the aluminum backing is actually meant for structure. So this person did say that this could be one of the strongest phones out there just because of the way it's designed. But it's all theoretical. This person doesn't actually know 100%. It's not part of Apple, just a design person that looked into it. Speaking of the design of the iPhone, iMore has a story about batteries and LTE. So the iPhone 5 does get a bigger body, and what this would be used for is for battery, because you want to put lots of batteries in there because you're going to be powering this LTE, right? So you need all this room for more battery because of the LTE, and the LTE chip actually takes up more room than all the other chips out there. So yeah, they also say that the LTE will be only available for Canada and US, just like the iPad 3 or the new iPad. There is the LTE version of the iPad, and that's only available in the US and Canada. And they think that the same thing would happen with the LTE version of the iPhone 5. And sticking to the battery, the iPhone 5 battery has been pictured by 9to5Mac, so they really did find, or they have a photograph of what the iPhone battery would look like. Of course, it's a lot, taller and is a little bit bigger than the iPhone 4's battery or the 4S battery, but it actually doesn't have that much more power in it. And they say that this battery is rated, or it says somewhere in the in the numbers on the battery casing, it's at 1440 milliamp hours. And the iPhone 4S, I think, this is going from memory, the iPhone 4S had 1430 milliamp hours, while the iPhone 4 had 1420 milliamp hours. So why is it so low? Why is this number so low? You'd expect that when they stick that LTE chip in there, that they're gonna have to increase the battery, not by like a tiny little percentage, but maybe something considerable, like 10% or 15% increase in battery life. And what 9to5Mac does end up saying is maybe iPhone 5 has a more efficient efficient processor, or maybe graphics unit, or any other part of the iPhone 5 is so efficient that it kind of compensates for the LTE's draw in power, and also the screen's draw in power. Sticking to iDevices, the iPhone 5, the iPod Touch, and the iPod Nano, iPad Mini, and the iPad will get new dock connectors, brand new dock connectors this September. And this is the mini 19-pin, 8-pin, 9-pin, whatever it is that you believe out there. They are going to get the smaller dock connector, all of them, all at once. And this is according to iMore. And the one thing I have, the gripe I have about this article is that they say that even the iPad will get it. And I'm talking about the new iPad right now, and oh man, it'd be such I'd hate to be an Apple worker right when they announce this, because a lot of people bought the new iPad, and then a few months later, all of a sudden they go, hey, we got this brand new connector for your iPad. So I'd be a little bit mad if I was a consumer. Sticking with the MagSafe, or not the MagSafe, with the 19-pin connector, nowhereelse.fr with a source, I forgot who their source was, but they have an image of the iPhone 4 or 4S's 30-pin connector right beside this 19-pin, 8-pin, 7-pin connector. And looking at this image, it actually looks like that connector is a lot smaller than we thought, because there is a metal band on the inside of that connector, around the inside of the connector. So there is a metal ring. And a lot of people all of a sudden assume that it must be for MagSafe, because that metal ring could be for magnets. And what this could do is you can stick your power cable or your sync cable in there, and it doesn't matter which direction it's in, it'll just work. And I don't think it's safe to just all of a sudden assume that it's for MagSafe, because you don't really need to have any magnets in there in order to have this ability to put your cable, upside down or right way up, because that can be solved. I talked about it in, I think last week's or 2 weeks ago, I talked about how if you put these connectors, if you put these pins on each side of the iPhone, it doesn't matter which way you plug in your cable. So they think that it's going to have MagSafe in there, but I don't think so. But hey, a man can dream, huh? Sticking with the MagSafe pins, how many pins will actually be in there? Is it going to be 9 pins? Is it going to be 10 pins? Is it going to be 7? I mean, there's a lot of rumors out there. The current rumors out there right now are 8, 9, and 19. And 9to5Mac says that the iOS 6 beta had a reference on this 9 pin. So 9to5Mac are the ones that are the originators of this rumor that it's going to be a 9 pin. Because when they looked at iOS 6 beta, there's this part of the code, part of the hardware section of the code, and by the way, the iDevices code, not just the iPhone 5, but the iDevices code, part of it said 9 pin in it, just like 9, capital P-I-N. That's all it said. So they assumed that it's probably going to have 9 pins, or at least all iDevices are going to have 9 pins. And this does lead to the previous rumor that I talked about, that all these iDevices will be updated earlier in September, or at some point in time in September. So 19 pin, 9 pin, 8 pin, what have you, iMore kind of sets it straight. And I trust this article because they say 9 pin or 8 pin does not make sense. It just doesn't. What does make sense is a 19 pin connector, because if you have a 9 or 8 pin, it totally limits the compatibility with other legacy accessories that you have out there. Even if you have a connector to connect your 9 pin or 8 pin back up to 32 pin, it's still not going to work with all of your devices. And I have talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go over it some more. Oh, where am I? Oh, why would I ask? Oh, where am I? So, iPhone 5 or iPad mini. Now, these two are probably going to get that connector, but given a choice between the two, couponsforyou.com says that they did a, what's it called? I'm blacking out. I'm starting to freak out right now, and I'm only 11 stories out of 34. Oh, this isn't good. Couponscodeforyou.com say that after their survey of a lot of these people, 80% of them would prefer an iPhone 5 from an iPad mini. And this should actually be a little bit scary for Apple, because they want a lot of people to buy their stuff, right? And if you release two new devices all at once, it might kind of cannibalize the sale of one or the other. And in this case, it would probably cannibalize the sale of the iPad mini. And I do agree with the coupons code for you, because if I was given a choice, and I will probably buy some sort of iDevice this September, if I was given a choice, I'm probably going to pick the iPhone 5 because I use it a whole lot more than the iPad mini. But it would be nice to have both, but if I can only choose one, it would probably be the iPhone 5, because right now my iPhone 4 is just so slow. All of a sudden, it just got so slow. And you know what? Here's a little bit of a tangent. I wish that I could turn off this automatic updating bullcrap that Apple placed on my iPhone. I don't want that. I don't want it. Just let me update it on my own. If you guys have any idea of how to turn off that automatic update, let me know. It's probably like a button in there that you can just press, like turn off automatic update. But anyway, speaking of the iPad mini, The Verge reports that Steve Jobs actually was receptive of a 7-inch tablet, and this comes from Scott Forstall from the Samsung Apple kind of big battle in between them. And Scott Forstall said some of the VPs emailed Steve Jobs about this 7-inch iPad, and Steve was kind of like, at first he didn't like it, but now after a few emails he goes, hey, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. So maybe this could lead to a 7-inch iPad mini at some point in time in September. Apple Insider reports that Mac Pros, iMacs, and actually I guess that's it, just those two, Mac Pros and iMacs files were found in BootCamp, allowing them to boot from a USB drive. What does this mean? Okay, a lot of devices out there, mainly laptops without disk drives in them, and some of the Mac minis that don't come with a disk drive, a lot of them have files in BootCamp that say, let me boot from a USB drive. But the Mac Pro and the iMac wasn't there before, but now all of a sudden they're there. So that leads Apple Insider to think that because they're there, it means, well, that we're probably gonna, the iMac and the Mac Pro is probably gonna ditch the disk. And And they actually had a really long and is a very lengthy article, but it does summarize a lot of the rumors for Mac Pros and iMacs. I would suggest if you're really into your iMacs and Mac Pros and you don't really know a lot of rumors about them right now, take a look at this article because it is well done in that sense. I mean, I've already read through a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, so I don't really care about it. But they also talked about a slimmer, or at least a smaller Mac Pro. I would agree with that. I mean, you can probably get rid of this whole ginormous desktop cheese grater look of the Mac Pro right now and just replace it with something a whole lot smaller and a whole lot slicker. But sleeker. Yeah, slick is like, you know, something slippery, but and actually, I imagine what the iMac could look like if it had the whole Retina, you know, super thin profile. And looking into my imagination, this thing looks nice, actually. If you made the iMac super slim, kind of like the televisions out there, probably not that slim, but the TVs, the LED TVs out there are really, really slim right now. So if you could put an iMac to be, you know, maybe twice the width of those LED TVs out there, it's actually going to look really, really nice. It's going to look just like a display, not an all-in-one computer. All right. And Digitimes.com talks about wireless charging because, you know, since we're in the topic of new devices, you know, Mac Pros, iMacs, Digitimes talks about MacBook Airs possibly getting a wireless charging capability, and this is going to be the MacBook Air 2013. And that's because Intel has been kind of producing this technology, and Apple does use Intel chips. And yeah, so there is a possibility that the MacBook Air will get this, you know, charging from wireless charging. But think about it a little bit, guys. If you had this wireless charging ability on your MacBook Air, you're not going to carry around that charger unless it's a super small charger that I have, like, you can roll out or something like that. You know what? Not even that. I will not carry a charger like this because it's going to be extra weight that you stay in your backpack. Right now I have my charger, and that's nice because, you know, plugs, and it's a small charger. But if you had a wireless charger for your MacBook Air, I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I imagine it to look like a mat that you can kind of put down on your table, and then you could set your laptop on top of it. I can't see me carrying that everywhere with me. I can see it, you know, I can see people putting it in their offices or maybe their homes, but I can't see them carrying it with them. And keep in mind, this is Digitimes. I forgot to say that. I forgot to mention that this is Digitimes, so a lot of their stuff is kind of iffy. But it is true that Intel is working on this wireless technology. It's a little bit of a stretch that it might go to the MacBook Air 2013, and it's even more of a stretch that it's going to go to an iPhone because, well, you know, iPhone doesn't really use that many Intel devices, Intel products inside it. So that's a little bit more of a stretch. But you're going to need to purchase these iPhones, MacBook Airs in the Apple Store. And right now, BusinessInsider.com reports that the Fancy social network could be bought by Apple. And what I'm talking about here is the Fancy does it's a small 20-people company, 20-person company. And what they do is, it's kind of like Pinterest, where you can say, hey, I really like this and I want to buy this, you know, this device. And Apple might think about buying these guys because they can sell more laptops and MacBooks and iMacs, all their devices. And they can also probably, I don't know how they can put apps in there. But right now, basically what the Fancy does is sells physical objects online. It's kind of like a social object, physical thing. And what this could do is it can strengthen the rumors that Apple is getting into this whole digital and physical transaction, because there are these iWallet application, iWallet patents out there. There's the Passbook app that Apple has right now, and then there's going to be this the Fancy social network that Apple might buy. And also Apple has the Apple Store application. So it is a possibility. I'm not going to rule it out, but right now it's kind of, you know, a low, not really a big rumor, but yeah. So speaking of not big rumors, oh geez, that was a terrible segue. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but so far I've been I've been trying to do these segues in a lot smoother fashion, but right now I'm kind of failing at it because I'm overheating and I got to drink more water. Hold on. Anyway, let's get to this. That is the headline section of this podcast. Let's talk about nowhereelse.fr saying that iPhone 5's front assembly has been dismantled and photographed. So they have a photograph of the iPhone 5 dismantled, and you can see all their parts in the website. Pretty cool stuff. And their source was iColorOS, which is down. The website totally got taken down. TheVerge.com reports that iOS 6 beta does not have a YouTube app. You guys probably heard about this. And that's because the license for the YouTube app expired. But Google will submit their own apps in the App Store. Asimco.com reports that iOS could be the biggest game platform of the year. Why is this? That's because they have 200 million Game Center and OpenFaint accounts right now. Next, the Cult of Mac reports that custom asymmetric screws could make it hard to open Apple devices. So Apple is working on these, or they think that they're working on these asymmetric screws that's going to be really hard for us to open up. And these screws could also be patented. That means if this was patented, that means people like iFixit can't sell screwdrivers for it. Source was a Reddit image, and it could be fake, it could be a prototype. Patently, Apple reports that because of market saturation and low panel yield, there will be low supplies of iPad. This isn't anything new, but it's worth pointing out. And China is actually not in the statistics right now in the current iPad sales that they released. They said, these are the current iPad sales, and iPad sales are a little bit low, but China isn't there yet, so that's probably why it's low. But what about the iPad mini or the new iPad in their panel? So yeah, low. You know what? Next. Forbes.com reports that Apple TV is a legitimate product now. That's right. And they say that Apple should license the television to TV manufacturers, as in Samsung's television will have the Apple TV built into it. And why is it a legitimate product? That's because Apple TV has sold 1.3 million units last quarter. And Apple also sells $2 billion worth of apps and iTunes and iBooks stuff. So that's quite a lot of money. And they say Apple TV could be a very important product. And who says this? That would be Gizmodo.com. Next, nowhereelse.fr, again, these guys again, iPhone 5's vibration could be just like the GSM version of the iPhone 4. And this was from those photos that I talked about earlier of the front assembly. They looked at the vibration motor and they said, this looks just like the iPhone 4 GSM version. And if you guys don't have the iPhone 4 GSM version, what it means is you'll probably get smoother vibrations and it'll take up it will take up more space. Next up, again, nowhereelse.fr, they talk about the iPhone 5 using nano SIM cards because of leaked nano SIM trays out there. So there are these photos of these tiny little SIM trays meant for nano-sized SIM cards. ApplePro.com, or Apple.Pro, reports that the iPhone 5 will be 7.6 millimeters thin. This isn't really anything new, but case manufacturers are already prepared to use these leaked dimensions to make their cases. And they actually say that they will refund you if their cases don't fit. That's kind of ballsy, actually. TechRadar.com reports that iPhone 5's 3D rendered, or they don't report that. They have a video of the iPhone 5's 3D rendered kind of body, and they show it off, but I looked at the video and you can totally see that the speaker looks a little bit off. So, yeah, keep that in mind. They probably had older information because it probably took them a few weeks to make this rendered device. The Cult of Mac reports that the iPhone 5 rumor... Oh, actually, they don't report this. I use my blank reports this as kind of like a blank template, but it's kind of backfiring on me right now. The Cult of Mac has an iPhone 5 rumor roundup. And they have 2 pages, 1 page here, 1 page here. And I absolutely agree with everything that they say, except for the NFC and the camera. And what do these rumor roundup pages talk about? They pretty much just talk about what I've been talking about from the last few weeks. So if you do want to catch up to this stuff, look into the Cult of Mac's rumor roundup, page 1 and 2. CocoAnetics.com reports that the iPhone 3G app support for developers is going away. They say that devs won't be able to make new apps because Apple is getting rid of the ability or the support for the iPhone 3G in their apps. The current apps right now will probably work, but newer apps won't be able to be built for the iPhone 3G unless you're willing to get the previous version of, it's just going to be cost prohibitive to create the iPhone 3G apps now. So, RIP iPhone 3G. iLounge.com reports that the iOS 6 has a Bluetooth sharing capability for transferring data. What could this mean? This could mean that you can connect your iPhone to your iPod Nano, and whenever you have an iMessage, an email come up, you can just look up to your iPod Nano watch and you can look at it. Personally, I don't really care about that because I actually have an iPod Nano, but I wouldn't care about that at all. Actually, here we go. Patents and pie in the sky and, just pure speculation out there. These things probably won't happen, but let's talk about them. Patently, Apple says that there is a lifestyle companion app patent out there that was not, that was released now, but Apple could have created this lifestyle companion, in quotation marks, lifestyle companion apps. And what does this app do? They keep track of nutrition, fitness, and all that stuff. And they actually put all that data all together to kind of give you a report as to how you're doing physically, mentally, whatever, what have you. And they actually didn't release this. They have a patent out there. I think the patent dates back to, 2007? Yeah, 2003 to 2000, whenever the patent arrived. So there is a patent that Apple has, but they don't have an app. So it's a possibility that because they have this, they've been awarded this patent, they might make this lifestyle application. I personally look forward to it because I really love data. And if my iPhone can pick up data easily, as in I don't have to type it in, but it just knows when I'm running and what I've eaten. I don't know how it's going to figure that out, but yeah. Sticking with patently Apple, they say that there's a patent on faster autofocus for your iPhone. And what this does is it'll save a kind of a profile of your lens when a picture of a face was taken with it. What that means is, let's just say I stick my phone right in front of me and I take a photo. It's going to memorize what that focal length was, and it's going to memorize what my face looks like, and then next time it sees my face, it's going to go, okay, this is my face right now, this is how big it is, that means the camera must be this far away, that means I should put it in this focal length. And it does all that in fractions of a second, which means you can have faster autofocus abilities. AppleInsider.com reports that we could have virtual scroll wheels to control our iDevices. And what does, I don't have images for this because the link was broken, but what does this virtual scroll wheel thing mean? It means that Apple actually planned on creating, the scroll wheels for the iPod. Well, yeah, they were actually thinking of putting a digital version of that on your iPad or your iPhone, wherever it is. And what you would do is you would touch your device and you would hold your finger there, and then this virtual scroll wheel comes up, and then you can scroll all over your device. And I think that's a terrible idea. Good thing that they didn't run with that. It's just a terrible idea. Don't do that, Apple. Don't do a scroll wheel. The way you do things now is perfect. No need for a scroll wheel. And lastly, patently Apple. Wow, I can't believe I got through this. Patently Apple shows a patent on 3D gestures on the iPad to create 3D objects. And this is actually pretty cool. So somehow your iPad will be able to sense whether your hands are near the screen, not even touching the screen, but coming close or moving away from the screen. So what you can do is you can put 4 fingers on the iPad. Let's just say you have a CAD software running, what you can do is you can stick 4 fingers on the iPad and pull upwards away from the iPad, and in 3-dimensional space, the application will create a square for you, a 3D square. So you just create a square. And then if you wanted to put let's say a triangle on top of that, what you do is you put 2 fingers on top of the square and you kind of pinch together while pulling away from the iPad at the same time. And all of a sudden you have yourself a rudimentary house. But this is pretty cool, especially if you are an artist, if you're a 3D artist, or even for UI design, because then you can just put your hand close to the iPad and kind of like hover it around to look at stuff, or maybe scroll with just your hands, not even having to touch the iPad. That's pretty good, actually. That's actually pretty cool because, well, you know, fingerprint problems. So anyway, whew, that is it. That is it for the podcast. Wow. I can't believe I actually finished this. It only took me 3 tries to get this down. That's right, it took me 3 tries. And I have some end of show kind of notes for you guys. The headlines section will have little to no comments, and I did try that today. I think it worked out quite fine, though I did have to say some comments on a few things. My rule is if I do have to say comments about it, I should get rid of the headlines header for it. Also, the news order has been switched around. Before I used to talk about, you know, just general news and then a bunch of headlines and then a bunch of these patents. But there were some headlines section that were actually relevant to the news section. So I've been moving them around. And also, if you're in YouTube and you're watching this, the rumor roundup that I create has been discontinued. I've stopped making that, and if you guys didn't know what it was a minute worth of podcast. It's pretty much a minute video kind of summarizing this podcast and everything that happened this week. I realized that you can just check the show notes for this show and just read the first few lines, or even read the show notes. Pretty much, it'll take you like 2 minutes. You know, if not, go to the website and just read all the stuff, because I read all these articles and I summarize it. So just read my summary and you pretty much get my podcast if you didn't have time to listen to the podcast. Also, there will be timing details. Oh, I forgot to do that one. And that one. There will be timing details in YouTube. And what that means is if you're watching YouTube right now, you can look down at the description section, and whenever I talk about a topic, I click on this T up here on my database software. And right now I missed clicking it there, but I got it. So anyway, there will be timing on the show notes. So whenever I start talking about a certain topic, like the iPhone 5 being 7.6 millimeters thin, you can just click on that time and you can jump right to that. And this is useful if you just want to listen to the podcast for a specific thing, maybe about iPhone 5s or iPad minis. Just jump around. And lastly, my date posted section of this database has been changed to date tweeted, because I found that it took a lot more time than it has to actually write down the date that the website posted it. I'm just going to put the date that I tweeted it. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Oh, I should have totally played this right before. Now I have to listen for another, I don't know, minute and 30 worth of songs. But anyway, thanks a lot for listening, watching, or however way you consume this media. Visit AppleBruit.com if you guys really want to check out my show notes. And those show notes are actually, I put a lot of work into that. And you can do, you know what, I'm just going to stop talking. Visit AppleBruit.com, because I am falling apart right now. Visit AppleBruit.com. Email me at applebrute@gmail.com. And check out my YouTube channel and check out the iTunes and, you know, just whatever. What a way to end the show. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. See you guys next time.